Welcome back to another one of Nathan Bell's commentary videos. Bit of a shift happening. We're not going to be stopping at 100, but we'll talk more about that maybe in a future video. Today, Nate wants to talk to you about negative attitudes in the community to people who have qualified for the DSP or disability support pension.
Yeah. Well, I was diagnosed with bipolar schizoaffective disorder when I was about 19, and then a couple of years later, I was put on the disability support pension. And I've been on it since. Now, I've had a number of jobs over the years, and I always report my earnings to Centrelink. So I think Centrelink doesn't mind me being on the pension long term because I'm a pensioner who frequently works and reports income to Centrelink. I've worked as a car detailer, I've worked at a pub. I worked as a car detailer for many years, and all that time I was receiving the pension and reporting earnings to Centrelink, which I think is why they leave me alone. And now I work for Reliability, and I report my earnings from Reliability to Centrelink. So I'm a bit of a half and half. I work and receive pension. But people should know I hear voices all day. And I'm what you would call, not to toot my own horn, but compared to a schizophrenic who's homeless on the street and always unwell, I'm what you would call a high-functioning bipolar schizoaffective person because I can manage to exist despite hearing voices all day. And I do. I hear voices and chitter-chatter in my head, and a lot of it's very negative. And I hear it all day constantly. Yeah, I manage because I suppose because I've got a lot of constitution and I've just got strong spirit, I manage to put that aside and get on with life because I believe in doing things in life and I believe in being productive and bringing something into the world. So people shouldn't underestimate my illness. I may appear quite well most of the time, but yes, as I said, I hear very negative chitter-chatter and sometimes very positive and all sorts of chitter-chatter and voices in my head non-stop all day. And sometimes I just have to step aside from what I'm doing and just wait for the noise in my head to stop. And when I'm quite unwell, when I become really unwell, I have vivid, powerful hallucinations. Only my mentality is I'm a bit more like Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was a schizophrenic and she was interpreted as talking to God. Well, I interpret my visions as visionary experiences which are profound and powerful. I've had powerful visions of the future. I've had visions of spirits. I had a vision of a ninja spirit who appeared to me telling me that I should take up martial arts for my health and fitness. Then I did martial arts for a few years. So I have powerful hallucinations when I become unwell as well. But what I want to say about receiving the disability support pension is, a lot of people, I've got a few people who come up to me in the street because they're aware I receive the pension and that I receive support from the NDIS, and they come up and tell me, oh, you're not disabled, and why are you on the pension and why aren't you working? And they call me a bludger and they criticise me and berate me with attacks. And what I've got to say to those people is, who is on the disability support pension is a decision for doctors and Centrelink to make. It's not your decision. I've had enough of Australians who want to criticise people who are on the pension and who receive NDIS. As I said, I'll say it again, it is a decision for a qualified doctor and it is a decision for Centrelink who qualifies for the disability support pension. You are not an expert on health. You are not an expert on mental illness. It is not your decision. You have a right to voice your complaints, and if you have an issue with somebody receiving the disability support pension, you can write to your local member. You don't abuse anyone in the street. You don't have the right to approach strangers in the street who you don't know and whose life stories you're not familiar with and abuse them. If you have an issue with someone receiving the pension, write to your federal member and write to Centrelink. And I want to be clear about people who receive the pension. Nobody who receives the pension is ripping off Centrelink. If Centrelink has concluded that a person is eligible to receive disability support or NDIS, then that person is eligible to receive disability support and NDIS. They are not a fraud. They are not scamming the government. The government has decided they are eligible for this support. And it's an attitude in Australia where some people think, well, if a person can't work, they should just be left to die in the street, and thank God we've got welfare in this country, because if we didn't, we'd have people all around the community starving to death in the street. And some Australians, it seems, are quite happy with the idea of people starving to death in the street. And if you're one of these people who thinks it's fine for people who suffer mental illness, schizophrenia, bipolar and other conditions to just starve to death in the street and die, then I've got no love for you. You're a scumbag, and you need to be told that you're a scumbag. We do not want to live in a country where people with medical conditions are starving to death in the street in poverty, and there are people dying in the street. It's a mentality in this country of right-wing people who think that people who can't support themselves should just die. And it's a mentality that we can't help anyone in need and we can't support anyone to live a better life. I believe in universal income for everyone and universal housing for everyone and universal health care for everyone. As far as I'm concerned, there's enough money in the world and in this country that everyone should have their basic needs met, and nobody should be starving or desperate. But there's definitely an attitude in this country that some people are worthless and can just be left to die. And if that's your mentality, I've got no love for you. You're a scumbag. Right, so that's my view on the matter. Why am I less valuable to you? Why is my life not valuable? Why should I be left to die in the street? Am I that bad a person? I think I'm a great bloke. I'm a friendly bloke. I'm good to people. I treat people right. I'm a good communicator. I'm intelligent. So you think that because I am working at the moment and I have worked frequently, but you think because I receive the pension I should just be left to die in the street and starve to death? Thank God I get the pension or I would be dead. And apparently you don't care at all if I die. So why should I care what you think? You should recognise that in Australia we pay welfare to people so there aren't people living in poverty, and welfare is good for our country, especially for people with medical conditions. And if you're talking about Newstart, well, we give money to people who are currently unemployed while they're looking for work so that they can actually support themselves while they go about finding a job. And again, if you think somebody is ripping off Newstart, you don't abuse anyone in the street. You write to your federal member or you write to Centrelink. That's the proper process. You don't take it up with the person in the street. That's not appropriate. You don't walk around berating strangers in the street who you don't know personally. If you've got a problem, you write to the Prime Minister, right? Okay? So I've had enough of people who want to abuse disability pensioners. It comes from ignorance and an attitude that some people are worthless and should just be left to die. And I think Australians need to wake up to themselves and recognise that we pay welfare in this country so there isn't mass poverty in this country. So there's a little shout out to all the people around town who've criticised me for being on the disability support pension and receiving NDIS. I believe in a supportive Australia where we lift one another up, where we take money where there is an excess of money and we support Australians to live better lives, because I care about people. And if your mentality is that people can just die, you're a psychopath in my mind. You don't care about anyone. You're evil and you can die. So drop a comment in the comment section about what you think about people on the disability support pension and who receive NDIS.